In this video, I will be showing you 4 techniques that I use to restore PlayStation 1 games in my collection. As you can see here, these techniques can take a tattered old game and make it look almost new again. I tend to buy games for my collection in lots from online auction websites like eBay or Goodwill. This basically means that I get 10 or more games from a single order. I like to do this because the cost per game is lower and shipping is cheaper if not free. I also tend to find some interesting games that I would not otherwise have bought individually. Buying games in lots like this usually means that the condition is worse, but I have some tricks to bring them back to life and make them sparkle almost like new. The first technique that I like to use is to polish the jewel case. This can remove oxidation and find surface scratches from the acrylic plastic and make the game look far better. To achieve this, I use a system called Novus 123. This is a plastic polishing system that can remove shallow scratches from plastics. Novus 3 removes heavy scratches, Novus 2 removes light scratches, and Novus 1 is a cleaner. The first step is to remove any dust and oils from the case using Novus 1. Then remove larger scratches with Novus 3. I use cheap microfiber cloths and change them frequently as I work through the stages of polishing. I like to polish in small circular and linear motions across the case plastic. After a few minutes, depending on how badly the case is scratched, I remove the Novus 3 with another round of Novus 1. The next step is the same as the previous, except Novus 2 is applied. I like to work with Novus 2 for longer than Novus 3 to get rid of the finest scratches in the case and any hazing that was introduced by Novus 3. After cleaning off the Novus 2, you can see that the imperfections in the case have been vastly reduced and the case is more reflective and bright looking. In the case of this game, I noticed a crack in both the top and bottom shells of the game, so I had to resort to replacing case pieces. I avoid this as much as possible. The internal disc tray is the most sensitive to replacement because it contains CD-ROM markings that are not found on aftermarket cases. If I must replace the inner tray, I will take it from another game. As you can see, with some jewel case components replaced and a polished spine, this game is looking great again. The next technique that I use is disc polishing. I try to only use this as a last resort as it does introduce very fine micro scratches, but it can take an unplayable game and make it playable again. I use the JFJ Easy Pro Plus, which is a prosumer-grade disc polisher. I am very impressed with the results. As you can see here, the circular scratches have been entirely removed and replaced with a very light layer of micro scratches. Not bad at all, and it rivals some other pretty expensive equipment. This machine mounts the disc to a wheel with an oil-filled bearing. The disc is then pressed against a rotating wheel where a buffing disc and compound is applied. The first stage removes heavy scratches, and the second stage removes fine scratches. I am still perfecting my process as I have only recently acquired this machine. I'm very happy with the results so far though. The basic approach is to buff the disc in 2 stages. First the heavy scratch and then the fine scratch remover for 1 minute each. I rinsed the discs off under tap water to remove any buffing compound that was left on the disc. And as you can see here, the polishing process worked great. The game has booted up and the full motion video scenes are working. The last technique that I employ is removing stickers and adhesives from games. Some collectors like to leave these on to preserve authenticity, but I much prefer the games without, especially when they're a boring sticker like a library or something like that. This seems to be a popular opinion among other collectors too, as I've seen this trick used on other YouTube channels. I use Goo Gone to dissolve and remove adhesives from games. The technique with stubborn stickers is simple: patience. Apply some Goo Gone to a microfiber cloth, then dab it onto the sticker. After some time, the adhesive will relax and the sticker can be removed with some scrubbing. Once finished, the case will be looking great. After a round of Novus 123, you wouldn't be able to tell that a sticker had been left on this case for more than 20 years. Next, I add the game to my collection on pricecharting.com. I put a link to my collection in the video description if you want to follow along. I'm still adding games as I add them to my collection, and my next project will be figuring out a nice way to display them in my living room. Now that these games are all restored, looking good and part of my collection, the most important part of this project is to sit back and enjoy some time actually playing the games. Some of these old games are actually really fun. Game developers had limited hardware to work with and really had to think about the gameplay in many cases to make the games engaging. And to that end, it's incredibly rewarding to beat some of these older games that are actually really challenging. That's not to say that modern games are any weaker than old games, but I tend to enjoy playing some of these games from my childhood where they were really pushing the limits of what the hardware was capable of. So those are some of the techniques that I used to breathe some life into some old PlayStation 1 games that have seen better days. If you want to see more videos like this from me, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I've got one other PlayStation 1 video on the channel at the moment and have plans to make at least 1 or 2 more. So if you want to see those, hit the button. If you enjoyed this video, a like would really go a long way. It encourages me to make more of these. And if you have questions about anything I've done here, feel free to leave a comment below. I do read and reply to any comments that I get. So that's all I've got for now, and with that, I will see you next time.